Hello, this is Akiko Sudano at stampinginthemeadows.com in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. And let me refresh my screen here. Oh, it's taking a long time. There we go. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here we are. Here we are. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope everybody's had such a fun day today. There's been so many wonderful cards, beautiful cards, and so much fun inspiration. So I am also making my card with the Cottage Wreaths bundle, and I have a Christmas card for today. And it's kind of also a fun fold card, but it's a very, very simple fun fold card because it's just the kind that has I don't know what they call this. It's just the 4 1/4 by 5 inch card base, but then you've got the little section here that flips up, and there's your inside panel and stuff, so that you can write just a quick little greeting. And I thought this is perfect for the for this cottage wreath stamp and the die set. So the paper that I'm using is the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. All right, so the first thing I'm going to go ahead first and assemble the card pieces because I've got most of that cut out. So I've got a piece of the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper and a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock. And I'm going to adhere the Designer Series paper to the cardstock with just some liquid glue. And thank you so much. I have a hard time following all the comments, so I forgive me if I don't respond to them. Then I just adhere the Designer Series paper to the cherry cobbler panel. All right, so then the next part of my card is kind of a mini card, and this is a 3 inch by 8.5 inch panel, and it just folds up like this. And then I have a 2 7/8 inch by 4 inch panel of evening evergreen that I have embossed with the wintry, the pine boughs from the wintry embossing folder. So I'm going to adhere that to the front of this panel first with liquid glue and just kind of center that too. And I just really want to, that's not attached yet, I want to kind of center it and it'll all come together. Let's move this over just a little bit. There we go. I think that'll be nice. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to adhere this little mini card to my main card base panel, and I'm going to use the lines from my grid paper to help me line this up. And I don't want it open, I want it closed, and I'm going to just adhere this with liquid glue. And you can use any kind of adhesive. In the past, when I've made these kinds of cards, I've used tear and tape adhesive as well. So then I'm going to line it up here. And the grid paper is really, really easy because I can use my center and then I can line up. And then I have a little bit of time also because of being liquid glue to adjust it, so that I basically want this little panels to be centered in between on this main panel here. Okay, so I'm going to just put this aside and give this a few minutes to dry here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do some stamping. And I'm going to stamp that pretty leaf wreath from the Cottage Wreaths stamp set. And I'm going to be stamping that in Garden Green. And I want to bring a piece of scratch paper over here just to make sure that I have this inked up nicely. I'm just so impressed about the day that there have been so many examples of this, of cards using this stamp set, and they have all been so different and beautiful. So it's been really fun, and it's been really nice. And I guess it really just goes to show how versatile this stamp set is. All right, so this is stamped in Garden Green, and so I'm going to put this aside. And then on my sample card, what I want to do is I wanted to have my wreath in the middle here, and then I want my sentiment down here. And I felt like I used the Christmas Wishes stamp, the sentiment for my sample card from the Leaves of Holly stamp set. But then I felt like this is just a little bit overpowering for the wreath because it's just so big and bold. But then I found another Christmas greeting from the Peaceful Deer stamp set, and this is just perfect. It's got a Merry Christmas, and I'm going to be using that instead of the large one. I hope that that'll be a little bit less overpowering. And then it's got this cute little Sending Love and Peace this season, so I'll be able to use that for the inside. If you can see on the inside of the card here, that little inside sentiment from the Leaves of Holly stamp set is just perfect for this small area for writing and stuff. So I wanted something that was small, and I think that that Peaceful Deer stamp set is going to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink that up in Cherry Cobbler ink, and I'm going to stamp that on basic white and have it right here. Just stamp it right in the center of the panel here. And see, that's pretty. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the same die, which is just that little label die to cut it out with from the Leaves of Holly stamp bundle. And that's going to be perfect. So I'm going to cut that out with this die, and then let me find the die for the wreath. And line this up like this, and I'll take these over to my die cutting machine, which is right behind me, and I'll cut these out, and I will be right back. Right back. Let's see here. Cut out the sentiment. I want to keep this straight. There we go. And then the wreath, I'm putting the die on the wreath. One of the things that I'm really, really pleased with is that this wreath just is so easy to die cut, and it still gives you a nice, even, it's easy to line up, and it's easy to get a nice, even cut around the die. Okay, so here we go. So there's my sentiment, and I think that looks nice. That's a little bit less less imposing than the other. And see it's really nice. It's just it's easy to line that up and get a nice cut. So that's good. So the next thing, I'm going to bring my card out, And I'm going to, first I'm going to go ahead and put the wreath on with dimensionals, and then we'll decorate the wreath. I have my little half dimensionals here, and I'm going to just put them all over the back here. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and load up the back of my label with dimensionals too. There we go. And pull off the covers. There. And try to get this centered in the top part of the card here. One of the nice things that I like about this card is that this style of card where you've got the center panel is that you can easily make a design where your die cuts will go off of the card, and you still have this much room for it to stay so that the card will fit in the envelope. And those are really, really different cards. Or just have your label kind of flick off to the side here, and it just makes it really, really pretty. And this label, I want to, there's a little, there we go. I want to center this label on the, move this scratch paper, I don't need that anymore. Center it on the bottom and make it straight. So I'm going to use my grid paper to help with that. Help me line it up. There. Yeah, I think that that's a little bit less, this is just so big, and it's less distracting from that than that. And then what I've also done is I've taken the little leaf, the leaf clusters from the Cottage Wreaths dies, that I forgot what the names of those dies were called. And I've cut these little leaf clusters out of Evening Evergreen cardstock. So I'm going to just use a little bit of liquid glue, and I want to put it on the either side of the top of the wreath here. And I'm just making this, I'm just decorating this simply. One of the things that I find is that this pretty bow does take up a lot of room. So if you want to make sure you've got plenty of room for the green to show, the Evening Evergreen to show, go ahead and leave a rather large area in the middle here on the top for the bow where you don't have anything. And that's a little bit counterintuitive, but it works. And you can see that when you hold the bow over the area. And I'm just using this, adhering this with liquid glue. If you hold the bow over where you're planning to put that, you can see how that goes. And one of the things about these leaves are that they're both they both kind of sweep the same way. So what you're going to have things go off, but that's fine. And then I cut the this is the detailed bow that is in there, and I cut this out of the new red and the red glimmer paper that you have the red glimmer paper with the white glimmer paper, and it's a 6x6, and it's just so pretty. So I'm going to just put that on the top here, and I'm going to use a glue dot to hold that down, or maybe a couple of glue dots to hold that down, just to keep it from rocking and moving. Sometimes I find that things kind of go wonky if I just use one, and if I have two of them, then they kind of balance each other out. put this on the top. And that gives you a little bit of sparkle. And then I just decorated the red rhinestone basic jewels. I just put a bunch of them around my wreath to decorate that. And that just picks up the red berries in the Designer Series paper background here. And I'm just going to put a lot of them down. So that I have lots of red sparkle. There. Okay, I think that looks good. You know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and add one to the label right here. Just to dress up the label a little bit as well. Okay, so then for the inside, I've still got an inside panel here, and I have a basic white panel for the inside, and I'm going to stamp that that pretty sending love and peace this season, and that's the one from the Peaceful Deer stamp set. I'm going to stamp this in cherry cobbler ink and do this on the middle of the stamps of the panel, kind of in the middle, I think. Try to do that in the middle, and I've lined this up so that I can so hopefully it'll stamp straight. And if I line my stamp block up with my grid, I think I'm good. There we go. There we go. And that was done in cherry cobbler. And then I have, since there's pine branches in the Designer Series paper, you've got this little pine stamp in the Cottage Wreaths stamp set. And I'm going to ink this up with garden green ink, just like I did the regular wreath. And then, since the, that's a lot, I shouldn't have pushed that so hard. Since the Designer Series paper also has some evening evergreen, I'm going to go ahead and use a sponge dauber and add little dabs of evening evergreen to the stamp. I'm not sure how much of a difference it's going to make, but if and then I'm going to stamp this in, and I think this one I'm going to stamp the bows going down this way, right under the sentiment, and that will continue with the kind of make it a circle right there. So that's that. And then for the bottom here, I have another piece of, usually I put like a half of an inch wide strip of Designer Series paper on the bottom of the inside panels, and this one is a quarter of an inch since it's such a small panel. And I'm going to just put this down with liquid glue and make sure that I don't have it upside down. Put it on the bottom, line it up, check the back, and then use my paper snips to trim off the excess. we go. Okay. All right, so that's the inside panel. And then I'm going to use Stampin' Seal to adhere this panel to the inside of the card. And I will have all of the write-ups and the cardstock cuts and links to the products in my blog, and I'm planning to post that tomorrow morning. So hopefully, and I'll put the links back here so that you can find everything. So that's the inside panel, and that's the front of my card. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself today, and thank you so much for everything, and stay tuned. I think Amy has some other nice announcements to make later on this evening, so enjoy. Bye-bye.